This is Superior Sports Talk with Reggie Wilson and Luke Inman, part of Locked On Sports Minnesota, and it starts now.
Back at it, another episode, Superior Sports Talk, presented by Locked On Sports Minnesota. I get my number one ace starting pitcher back. Finally, the long-awaited return, the local legend himself. I trust the vacation time was good on the mind and body. You're relaxed and you're ready to go. I mean, good to see you, man. What's going on, Reggie?
Man, it was weird. You know, I was hearing that theme music just in my head. I was just like, man, I miss it. So it's good to be back. Good time away, celebrating the wife and her milestone birthday. And so now we're back at it. We're talking sports.
Yeah, back to the grind. I mean, man, oh man, we got another loaded show today. We got to get Reggie all caught up. What's been going on in Minnesota Wild territory? Minnesota Twins have been red hot. Later, I'm going to put Reggie on the hot seat once again with What Does It Mean? All coming up on Superior Sports Talk. But first, make sure to check out our other daily show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. It's the Ron Johnson Show, featuring former Gophers and NFL receiver Ron Johnson and producer Sam Ekstrom. Get the daily opinions of an athlete turned broadcaster. Ron Johnson tells it like it is, whether it's Vikings, Gophers, Wolves, or Twins. Subscribe to the Locked On Sports Minnesota YouTube channel or podcast feeds so you never miss an episode. All right, well, Reggie, I don't know how much you were able to soak in while you were away as far as Minnesota sports, but the Minnesota Wild, they've been in a back-and-forth burner with the St. Louis Blues. We had Seth Topol on to break down the back-and-forth action yesterday. If you missed it, make sure to check that out up on the Locked On Sports Minnesota YouTube channel right after this. But here's your 30-second recap. Wild lose game one for rip after the decision to start Marc-Andre Fleury in net. Much to the chagrin of many, they roll with him again in games 2 and 3. Well, the Wild outscore the Blues 11-3. They go up 2-1. Sunday night, Blues come out with a vengeance, catch the Wild, a little flat-footed it felt like. They carve them up 5-2. Series all tied back up at 2s. Now a best-of-3 game series. Wild get that home ice advantage. Mm-hmm. Reggie, outside of the goalie decisions, one of the biggest storylines has been the disappearance of Kevin Faila. I mean, he ended the final 3-4 weeks of the season on absolute fire, but here we are, 4 games in. He scored 0 goals, just 1 assist, and has had a handful of, what many would call just kind of flat-out bad penalties. Really, Sunday night he was called for a 4-minute high-sticking penalty. I'll just kind of give you the floor now for your analysis of what you've seen, what you've heard, maybe starting with Kevin Fiala's kind of disappointing start to the playoffs so far.
Well, it's funny. When I was away, it's like you never really truly unplug.
Right.
Because, I'm getting, pings on my watch. I'm getting, pings on the phone about different score updates and all that. And I'm like, oh, and the wifey's like, what happened? I'm like, oh, the Twins scored. Or, the Wild are up, on the Blues right now. They're really
You're tapped
giving
in,
it to
man.
them.
You can't clock out.
And it's just funny because, we get back into the room and the TV is on TNT. And, of course, the Wild are playing. And the wife was like, oh, see, look, now you can watch. And I'm like, man, I am on vacation. And I'm sitting here watching the Wild. And I'm, like, into it. And so I was able to check out a little bit of Game 3. Saw a little bit of Game 4 as well. And it's just so interesting, man. Like Kevin Faila ended the season, and, I mentioned it last night on my sportscast, the KARE 11. The dude was probably one of, if not the most hottest player in all of the NHL to end the regular season. Like the dude was just like scorching hot. And I know he had a little bit of a disappointing series last year in the playoffs as they kind of got their first round exit as well. But it's just so interesting for some reason, like when the postseason started, like all of a sudden he just went cold. He went flat. And, when you see games 2 and 3, you're like, oh, okay, like they got enough talent and, enough excellence on this roster to just overcome him. And, especially Game 3, it's just like, ooh, the Wild are cooking, okay. And then, 4 comes out and you're just like, Yeah, they probably need Fiala because it's like when you don't have other pieces working, when you're not able to get 3 and 4 goals from Kirill Kaprizov on a nightly basis, that's just very unrealistic to think that he'll have that type of production night in and night out. Even though he's just amazing, he's a awesome player. You need Fiala to come on, like come on, dude, like. And it's interesting because when they talked to him after his performance the other night on Sunday, like he finally scored a point, got an assist, and it's like, wow, that's the first real meaningful action that he's gotten. I think it's been 14 shots on goal and nothing doing except for that one assist now in the game on Sunday. And so I think he was upset. They asked him like, "Are you frustrated with your performance?" He's just like, "Yeah."
Yeah. The one word, yes. After a deep sigh.
Yeah, but I think what is hopeful for him is that, him kind of getting into that groove there in the third period and getting that assist, maybe that sparks something for him to maybe come out, play with a little bit more aggression, and maybe he can, do his thing and be the Kevin Faila that we all have come to know, especially that last month of the regular season. It's funny because Bill Guerin in his last press conference, he was asked about Faila, who, the Wild are going to have a decision to make soon about him. And he's just like, you're only as good as your last game. And then he starts laughing, and it's just like, Bill, what are you saying, my guy? Like, are you being serious about this? Because that seems a little ominous there.
Right.
And so it's like Kevin's not doing himself any favors right now.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it earlier. I had it written down in my notes. Worth noting, Fiala, too, is not the first time we've seen a little Jekyll and Hyde. Again, remember, you mentioned it last year in the playoffs. Well, first heading in, he was ready. He was a key piece to getting into the playoffs for the Wild. But in the first round versus the Golden Knights, just nowhere to be found again. I mean, you rarely heard his name called. So hoping he can kind of break out of that playoff funk starting tonight. Reggie, while you were gone, the hot topic for me, whenever we talked Wild, I always started with that goaltender situation. And the decision not to roll with the hot hand, 13-0-3 heading in. It was disappointing. I mean, that's just how I felt. I was just disappointed to see Fleury in the net game one, and then they get rocked 4-0, and you say, oh, no, here we go. Now what do you do? But the decision to stick with him in game two really sent a loud and clear message that said, look, this is why we went out and got this guy for the playoffs, despite the age. The guy's one of the best goalies maybe of all time. He's got the experience, the pedigree on his resume. He's got the Stanley Cup victory. Win or lose, this is our guy, and we're not looking back. No regrets, no second thoughts about it from the coaching staff or front office. What was your thoughts and first reactions to the decision to sit Talbot? And if they lose this series, I mean, is it the big elephant in the room? We just look back and play the blame game, or is that too easy?
I think that's too easy. That's a little low-hanging fruit. You got to give the legend the benefit of the doubt, and that's exactly what Coach Everson is doing. I mean, he had the bad performance in game one, and he's just like, look, I can't go away from this dude for one bad performance because it wasn't just all on him. Watching that game last Monday, I'm like, man, I can't put that all on him. Like, there were some goals that he was a little out of place on, but like I can't put that all on him for the 4-0 loss. And what's interesting is he came out in the next two games and was the flower that we all know and have come to just expect in these playoff performances. But here's my thing, and I guess you don't sit a guy who is hot, and games 2 and 3, he was hot. And so it's just like, how do you go away from that guy? But here's my thing. At what point do you utilize Cam Talbot?
Right.
Like,
where are we at here? Yeah.
How do
what's
you
the game plan?
I mean, the dude has, like, if you talked about Kevin Faila maybe being 1A as far as the hottest player on the team, Talbot's probably 1B. Or maybe he's 1A and Fiala's 1B. You know what I mean? Like, Talbot was playing some of the best goaltending of his career, even, like, especially after Flower came, like I think he was something like 13-0-2 or something like that after the Wild traded for Fleury. And it's just like, wow, like a guy with this type of production, a guy that is playing this well in net, like how do you go away from this guy? And I understand, like, a few games and, all that. And, that's why you traded for a guy like Fleury. And I get that. But it's like, do you, this really decisive game? I think whoever wins game 5 in these best of 7 series in hockey, I think they go on to win 79% of the time after that. They go on to win the series. And it's just like, with games as pivotal as the ones that you have coming up, like at what point do you utilize Cam Talbot or do you just leave him? You know what I mean? And then it's just like, well, then when you actually do need to use him or you decide to use him, it's going to be tough to just have the dude come in like cold turkey like that. Just here you go. Just throw him in there and expect to, he's a professional, so you do expect him to, go out there and handle himself well and do what it is that you put him in net to do. But when you bring a guy in cold and you don't know exactly like what you're going to get from him because you're just like, well, we'll just put him out there and just hope for the best, because you really didn't get him into any type of a playing rhythm. You just, after the season, you've had him sit for like 2 weeks. I really don't know what happens. And so now it's a situation where you have to ride with Marc-Andre Fleury because he's who you've been riding with so far, and he's who you're going to have to stick with because you can't really mess up, I would say the chemistry. You can't really mess up the vibe, if you will, by changing goaltenders because, like, if you were going to do it, maybe you would have done it last game or the game before that. Now it just seems like a really odd time to do it. So I think you got to stick with Flower.
Yeah, I think you're right. A ton of great points there. I think you got to just make your decision and commit to it. You can't waffle back and forth and sit there and second guess yourself. And you're right. The longer that time goes on, the harder it is to get to put in Talbot in the net. I mean, you're not really setting himself up for success, so to speak. Important to remember too, as hot as Talbot was, his career playoff record is only 15-15. So the Wild looked at that and saw a guy with the experience and pedigree of Fleury was even available and jumped all over it. And as much as I've critiqued that decision to roll with him every game thus far, I do certainly think it was the right move to be aggressive, go acquire him for this time of year, no doubt.
On the other side too, the Blues, went with Bennington.
That's right.
Over Husso, and it's just like that really paid off. I mean, that was a gutsy decision from them after losing in game 3 and kind of being like on their heels a little bit to make a decision like that to change goaltenders. I will say, Bennington does have a championship pedigree. That's who they rode to win the Stanley Cup. So like he's done it, but like you go away from the guy that you have been riding with in a game that is just like it could be make or break for you all's like season on the line. Like that was a gutsy move and it paid off for them. So maybe that's something that shows the Wild like, hey, it can be done. But it's just another one that's just like, ooh, like you just kind of clenching your pearls a little bit like, oh, I don't know about this because it's just a tough thing to make a decision like in the middle of it, like when you're in the fire and you need to win these games.
Yeah, when you've got two teams so closely matched up, I mean, top to bottom, the long history and pedigree, the rivalry that goes back between these teams. It seems like the coaching decisions ultimately play such a huge factor in the ultimate outcome of these games. One decision, though, by these coaches could ultimately end your season or keep you alive for another round. Going to be really interesting. Last one, talking NHL playoffs, just looking around the rest of the league and landscape, how these other series are shaping out after last night's games. Capitals and Panthers all tied up at 2 games apiece. Penguins crushed the Rangers last night 7-2. They go up 3-1. Flames and Stars tied back up at 2-2. and the Colorado Avalanche sweep the Predators. They'll get a nice little vacation and break here as they wait for the winner of the Wild and Blues. Man, talk about a tough road to the Cup if you're the Wild. That's how you're rewarded with this 2 seed, huh? Are you kidding me? What's going on with that?
I think what's interesting is like, what did Ric Flair say? To be the man, you got to beat the man.
That's right. Yeah. Yep.
And so look,
right.
the Avalanche have been the top team on that side, and so it's just like, you got to beat them if you want. I mean, you conquer demons if you beat the Blues, because you know the history there, and just the recent history of this season not beating them in the regular season. And it's just like, all right, you got to go through the Blues. Okay, and then you get through the Blues, and now you get the Avalanche, which, they have beaten them this season, but, it's a different beast in the playoffs. And I mean, Nashville was no slouch. And they went ahead and just swept them, and just, we're gonna chill in the hot tub for a little bit and wait on you guys to beat each other up until we play each other. So you guys, do what you do. Go 7 if you want. We'll be here chilling. We're
Have
good.
Fun. Yeah.
We're good. Have a great time. Yeah. Just do your thing. We're over here though. We'll see you in a bit. And so I think that part is interesting, and hopefully maybe, whoever wins this series between the Wild and the Blues, maybe you catch Colorado slipping a little bit because they've had all this time to just rest and chill and wait for the next opponent, and maybe you can kind of jump on them a little bit. That maybe is the hope, but it's just so interesting. You see domination from them, from the Penguins, but then, games and series that you thought like, oh, maybe these might be over. Like, now they're tied at 2 games apiece, and you're just like, wow, like anybody can win these series. And especially like the Toronto-Tampa series, I think game 1, Toronto came out and beat the Lightning 5-0, and you're just like, whoa, what's happening? Like, you got the defending champs that you're just whooping up on like this, and then now the series is tied at 2 games apiece. And I think that is kind of like a theme, because just when it seems like maybe a team is going to run away, and you can see it in this Wild Blues series as well, when it seems like maybe a team is going to run away, it just comes right back down to the mean right there, and you're even. And so I think it makes for exciting series across the board, and I'm excited to see how things play out.
It reminds me, let's say the Wild do advance and match up with the Avalanche. It reminds me a little bit of the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies, because I kind of like going in as the underdog. I mean, listen, Avalanche are going to have all the pressure on them. So you come in, nothing to lose, playing with house money, probably shouldn't be there anyway. So to be the best, you got to beat the best anyways. Can't control who you play and when you play them. So control what you can control and just go in there and give your best. Puck drops tonight. Another late start, 8:30 p.m. Central Standard.
Killing us.
Oh, man. Rest assured, XL Energy Center, though, that's going to be electric, man. Reggie and I will be back here tomorrow, break down all that action. Coming up, we're talking Twins baseball after they get a much-needed day off yesterday. And later, I'm putting Reggie on the hot seat with What Does It Mean? But first, you want smart post-game reaction from insiders that cover your favorite teams? Check out our Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Get instant reactions from our Locked On team hosts, along with prominent reporters like Kevin Gorg for the Wild and Brandon Warren for the Twins. No fluff, just 10 minutes of straight analysis after each game. Subscribe to Locked On Sports Minnesota on YouTube and never miss a podcast. All right, well, Reggie, I got to tell you, man, maybe you should go out of town a little more often, because the Twins, listen, the Twins were red hot while you were away. They swept the Oakland A's without the help of Byron Buxton and Carlos Correa. Both of those guys look to return any day now. They're 7-3 in their last 10. 3 games up on the Guardians for first place in the Central. To go on a nice little streak like they have with their 2 best players would be one thing. But Reggie, to be missing your foundational players and still have enough depth to find a way to win some games in Major League Baseball is pretty fun to watch. I know you've been gone a while, so you're welcome to spitball here, get anything off your chest you've been waiting to say about the Twins play this last week. But I'm also curious who you've been most impressed with when it comes to these young depth pieces that have filled in that could have a big role on the team down the stretch.
I mean, I'm impressed with them all. You talk about Selly, you talk about Miranda, Royce Lewis coming in to play. Like, it's amazing to see that early on in the season, you got a next man up mentality and it's just working out. Usually, you say next man up and it's just like, okay, you're just trying to inspire confidence. Next man up, it doesn't stop. We still got a job to do. And it's just like, okay, yeah, like we get it. But like there is, a significant drop off from a player like Byron Buxton to the next guy, from a player like, Carlos Correa to the next guy, even though Royce Lewis is expected to be like a pretty big deal one day. And so you look at things like that and you're just like, wow, like, guys like Polanco playing big. You got the pitching staff doing well. Sonny Gray was great the other day. You got, even Rocco, you got guys stepping in for Rocco because he's dealing with COVID. And it's just like, goodness gracious, like just all across the board. And I was reading about it a little bit ago, and so many people expected that there would be maybe some freak and just nagging injuries to start the season, just because like you had this lockout and guys were probably working out, staying in shape and all that stuff, but usually you get like a long spring training to kind of like shake the cobwebs out and really kind of get in a groove and all that. And I think that's a lot of what we've seen with some of the struggles from Carlos Correa. And before the injury he was starting to pick it up a bit, but he did not have a spring training with a new team, after being with the Astros for as long as he was. And now, you're trying to like get adjusted to a new team, to your new environment, new ball club, all of that, and really try to produce. And there's a little bit of pressure because you kind of brought it with you with the championship pedigree that you hold. And so it's just like, well, what's up? Like, what are you going to do? And he did not have that full spring training to do what he is expected to do. And it's tough because then you get this freaking injury just out of nowhere, getting hit by the pitch. And now you're like, dang, like derailing some of the progress and some of the momentum that he was starting to build. And I think it's tough, but I mean, kudos to the Twins, man. What is it, like 14 out of the last 17
yes,
that
sir.
they've won?
Yep.
And I think it's just super impressive to see that, Byron Buxton goes out. Oh, that's all good. We'll keep winning. Correa goes out. Okay, we'll keep winning. Paddock maybe headed to the injured list with his elbow. Sonny Gray on the injured list for a while. He comes back, picks right back up. And it's just this next man up mentality. They've embraced it, and it's the athletics. So like,
yeah, I know,
but they are still a professional baseball
exactly.
team. So let's not disrespect them in that regard. But I mean, you play against the team that you are supposed to beat, because this is a season in which so many people have leveled high championship expectations on this team. And, they started off all slow and you're just like, dang, man, the bullpen. Dang, man, the bats are supposed to be better. What's going on? And then all of a sudden they're like, no, we're here. It was just us. We were a little sleepy at first. It's all good. We're awake now. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing now. And it's exciting to watch. And you just wonder how long that they can sustain something like this, because after a while, the dog days of summer and the grind day in and day out, like you're going to need your guys to be healthy. You're going to need your guys to be consistent, because like I said, with these championship expectations, you're hoping that guys are going to be around to do what it is that you expect them to do. And the competition gets a little bit more stiff. Now you're going to play the Astros and you guys have the same record as these guys coming into this series. And so it's like, okay, the competition is going to start picking up a little bit. You do expect the White Sox to be better. They've been, I don't know what's going on with them. The Guardians, I'm not sure that you expected the Guardians to be close to the top of the division. Like they, with all the pieces that they lost, you're like, I guess, and so I think you're expecting the competition to heat up a little bit more, and what you hope is that the Twins can rise to the occasion continually.
You look at these young but highly talented pieces getting valuable playing time. I mean, you just cannot put a price on this playing time, getting swings in the box, getting reps out in the field. Royce Lewis, number 1 overall pick. Nick Gordon, top 5. Alex Kurloff, top 15. Trevor Larnach, I know he's banged up right now, but went on the field producing, top 20 overall pick. I mean, that's a great young nucleus of talent that's just now starting to grow together, all under the age of 25. Then you add in those core pieces like Buxton and Correa. Man, pretty cool to see develop right before our eyes for sure.
And I think what's cool too.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a real quick aside. I think what's cool too is I think the Twins, even more than like the Reds. It was funny when the Reds are in Cincinnati and they got Louisville or whatever, and they can just call the guys up from Kentucky to just come and play. I think that's a luxury for them. But what's also interesting is like I think the Twins have a great luxury in that they got these guys playing in St. Paul. So, like, bringing them up to the majors isn't really a big deal because, like, they're just coming, like, a few miles down the road to play. So, like, they're already comfortable in their environment because they didn't have to move much. And, maybe there's something to be said about that.
I don't know if you saw it, but up on ESPN, they have a stock watch of all 32 MLB teams where were projected at the beginning of the season to where they are now through the almost the first 30 games. Twins are ranked 15th with a simulation of 82 wins, and they're giving them a 37% chance of making the playoffs. They're ranked behind the White Sox, oddly, as well, who ESPN has the 13th best team. Kind of a fun little piece just to, compare and contrast a little bit. Any initial thoughts or takeaways from ESPN's newest rankings? Agree, disagree, don't really care?
Yeah, I think it's cool to see, 15th, like, and this is the thing, to have a great farm system is sustained success for years and years to come. And what you want to see is, for some of the years that have been kind of dogged, that have been kind of just like, dang, man, like, are they ever going to win a playoff game again? You would hope to see, like, if you're ranked 15th like that you would have guys that come up that do affect change long-term for this Twins team and have a chance to have sustained success. Like I said, like, that's exciting. If I'm a Twins fan, like, I'm excited because I'm like, okay, they're drafting well, they're developing well, and hopefully we get to see a lot of these guys up in the major league level one day, making a huge difference, making a big impact on this small market team, being a team that can compete for championships year in and year out.
Again, I know the White Sox are still a couple spots ahead of the Twins, but in the rankings, ESPN dropped them 7 spots down to 13.
Wow.
Twins are up 3 spots up to 15, and the Guardians aren't far behind. They're at 19. They're up 2 spots. So just kind of interesting to see nationally where the experts kind of rank this AL Central division. All right, the time has come, Reggie. You're going to have to knock the rust off here. My favorite segment. I'm putting you on the hot seat, covering all the latest hot topics in Minnesota sports called What Does It Mean? Reggie, are you ready to roll?
Let's do it.
All right, first up, what does it mean with Reggie? The Golden State Warriors, 11 turnovers in the first half, didn't hit a three-pointer until 3 minutes left before halftime. They went 0 for 16 before that from deep. They were without Steve Kerr, head coach, for COVID reasons. Draymond Green was distraught before the game, to say the least, after finding out horrible, tragic story about his former college teammate and friend Adrian Payne, shot and killed in Orlando just hours prior to the game. Despite all that, they rallied back. They beat the Grizzlies 101-98, take a 3-1 series lead. What does it mean for the confidence of that team and the chemistry, I guess, after winning a game like that on paper, and I know the Grizz were without Ja Morant, can't overlook that, but I guess on paper you really thought they probably had no business winning that game.
No. It was funny, like, watching that game in real time and seeing the Grizzlies up 3, up 4, up 5, up 6. You're just like, how are they doing this without Ja? And it's just so interesting because one of my friends pointed out that, like, they've done it without Ja several times this season. Like, I think one thing that we saw with the Grizzlies in that series against the Timberwolves is, like, they are a very, very balanced team. They have a lot of great pieces on that team that, maybe they can overcome being without one of their superstars, one of, like, the superstar, with Ja Morant. But what's interesting is, like, they were in control of this game. And the same thing that makes you laugh makes you cry. Because what we saw down the stretch was that championship pedigree. And everybody has been talking about that, and it's just like, well, this Warriors team is different. Like, in the last 2-3 years, like, they haven't been the Warriors that we have come to know. But what did they do? They just retooled. The same guys, the same core members are in place. Steph, Clay, Draymond. They've added some other pieces, complementary pieces like Wiggins, Poole, and they're just continuing to roll. And it's just like, in those late game moments, all you see from the Warriors are like, dang, they've been here before. They've been here before. They've been here before. They were out without Steve Kerr, but like, guess what? Mike Brown has been a part of that team for a while now. So like, even he knows what to do in late game situations because he's been there before with them. And I think that is so interesting. The same thing that makes you laugh makes you cry. And what happened last night was they were without a guy who could really close it down. When the chips are down, you need a bucket. You can go to Ja Morant to close the game down and get a bucket and put the team over the top. And we saw it earlier in the series already. They were without Ja, and now they didn't have anybody down the stretch. You know, you got Dylan Brooks trying to do too much. Like, it's like, dude, that ain't your game, bruh. And he's dribbling the ball off of his foot out of bounds, and you're just like, dang, dude. Like, you know, you ain't Ja. You know, Desmond Bane, he's good at getting his own shot, but like, even he hasn't been there before either. And so a lot of the criticisms that a lot of people had against the Timberwolves, like, they don't have like that closer right at the end to like put the game away. You know, they haven't been there before. They're not experienced enough to put a team away at the end. That's the same thing that's failing the Grizzlies now. And it's just kind of crazy to see it, you know, in reverse now.
I was sitting there before the collapse watching. I'm like, how are they doing this without Ja? Like you said, and I forgot about Steven Adams. Remember, they didn't even play Steven Adams against T-Wolves after game one. And he's on there just mashing the boards. I mean, the Grizz dominated the rebound statistic last night. And again, though, I mean, just nobody to close it. I mean, without Ja's your closer. Desmond Bane, it's his only second year in the league. Steven Adams, he's not that guy. You're right, just no closer there without Ja. They're in serious trouble again, obviously down 3-1. And when you get Ja back, how healthy is he really going to be?
Yeah, he was limping last night.
His game is kind of defined by the explosion and acceleration, the quick cutting. To not be 100%, man. I mean, if you're a Grizzlies fan, you got to be awfully worried. All right, next one up. What does it mean? One of the wildest comebacks of the baseball season. I mean, the whole season probably took place last night after Josh Naylor hit a grand slam in the bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, tie the Guardians and the White Sox all up at 8. 2 innings later, Naylor hits another 3-run bomb to walk off on the White Sox 11-8. Naylor broke an MLB record with 8 RBIs in the 8th inning and on. Helped his team erase a 6-run 9th inning deficit. White Sox had 2 brutal, costly errors in the 9th inning. They fell apart. What does it mean when ranking Naylor's single-handed performance, though, versus other comebacks we've seen in the past? I mean, I can't think of any like specific player performances like that, but man, that's got to rank up there all time. I know it broke a MLB record.
Yeah, thinking back in baseball, like, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's tough.
You know, Byron Buxton's performance a few weeks ago was awesome.
Oh, that was great.
You know, to get them that walk-off, like, that was great. That's recent memory. Maybe you think about Albert Pujols against the Astros in the postseason.
It's a good one.
Like, or David Freese in the playoffs against and I'm going Homer here because I'm from St. Louis, but
do you, man?
David Freese in the World Series against the Rangers.
That was a great one.
Going on that tear, like that. Those are performances that I would kind of compare to, or maybe if you're switching sports, LeBron against the Celtics when he just goes like in a mode and he's just like after every bucket he's just like all business, you know, because he wasn't trying to go home because the Celtics were going to let him hear about it for a year. Like, you guys tried to challenge us in our big 3, and our big three is still better than your big three. LeBron's just like, no.
I love that LeBron.
I'm not going
when
home.
LeBron goes that mode, it's my favorite.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not going home. And so I think Naylor last night said, you can't bleeping beat me. It's just like, all right, dude, calm down, bro. Like, it's okay. Like, I get it being super charged up after a performance like that, but also it's just the regular season. It's just one game, my guy. Like, it's okay, calm down. But I love the passion, though.
Yeah, have you seen the dude, though? 5'10", maybe 5'11", 250-pound.
Yeah,
he's a brick house, just thick Rick.
He's like the Panda.
Yeah, the Panda, and no batting gloves, going old school. I mean, Vlad Guerrero style. I love to see it.
They got a lot of. They got a couple like little guys with power. When you talk about Ramirez too, like, like they're raking, man. Like,
no, for sure,
and just small but pack a big punch.
Yeah, Naylor was a stud last year, too. I think he was a first-round, maybe top 20 pick a few years ago, but he was on track to have a great season last year. He had a brutal leg injury, so he's coming back in a big way so far. Obviously, like you said, just a regular season game. Don't get too hyped up. But division rivalry, I mean, it's kind of fun to watch the rest of the division kind of beat up on each other. White Sox snap, I think, a 6-game winning streak there. And again, just two brutal, costly errors in the 9th inning and blow a 6-run deficit. All right, next one up. Minnesota Lynx, they've dropped to 0-2, losing their first 2 games by double digits. It's a long season, so I don't want to have too much a knee-jerk reaction. But, Reggie, I know you follow this team very closely. What does this small sample size mean for the Lynx's potential in this kind of fresh, new 2022 season?
Man, they got to pull it together. And it's funny because they're working in some new pieces like Angel, getting in. They're without Nafisa, like they've got some people that, they don't have Leisha anymore. Like, I think what's interesting is like hearing Sylvia Fowles like speak last night, and so much has been made about this being her last ride, and this is kind of like a victory lap, and wanting to send her out on top with another WNBA championship. And like, this team has all the talent in place to do what it is that they want to do. But last night, Sylvia talked about how, I ran this on Care 11, their effort has been, she called it minimum at best. And they just got to pick it up. And it was funny because, Coach Reeves was like, look, it's hard to win in this league. It's hard to win night in and night out. And it's just kind of crazy to hear a coach like that say that because of all the success that she's had and that the team has had under her tutelage, under her guidance. But it's just like, look, rent is due every day when you play sports. Like, you got to write the check. Like, there is no gimmies in professional sports because every opponent that you play is worthy of being there just as you are. And what's been interesting to me is coming out and losing these first 2 games, and they really haven't been close, man.
No, they're getting tossed, man.
Yeah. And you're just like, man, like, what's going on? Like, this is not the type of effort that you expect. But again, you talk about that championship pedigree. They've got players upon players there who know what it's like to win it all. And before long, you just hope to see those players just kind of galvanize the rest of the team and say, okay, come on, let's go. Let's go. Like, it's time to get it. And I don't worry too much just because, like, they've been there before and, they're just kind of in a slump to start. But once you kind of get that first win, get a little confidence, can watch the film, see what worked well, then it's like you can kind of break the dam a little bit and really kind of get it going. So I'm looking forward to them getting, win number 1. Hopefully that comes tonight. And really kind of just turning things around because as we've seen with the Twins, it's like, look, things could turn around quickly, even when they look bad. And it looked pretty bad with the Twins earlier this season. And so, look, 0-2 is not the best start, is not the most ideal one, but it's just 2 games. And so what you hope to see is that the Lynx could come out, overcome that, and really play like the Lynx that we expect them to be this season.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the ESPN WNBA power rankings. Lynx started out ranking 6th. They're now dropped to 10th. I guess my just quick, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but just quick kind of reaction to that. My question for you, you're my Lynx guy. What were the expectations for the Lynx going in? I don't know. Were they pretty high? Obviously, they were ranked 6th, I guess, to start the beginning of the year. Or were they a 500 kind of team? I know they went through a lot of changes during the offseason the last year or two. So what was kind of the expectations going in?
Hi.
Okay.
We talked to Cheryl Reeve earlier before the season started, and she was just like, look, we built this team to support Sylvia to send her out on top. And the expectations were that they're going to win and they're going to dominate and they are going to win it all. Like that's the expectations. But it's just kind of hard to – I think Sylvia was saying, like, just getting everybody to buy into the way that they do things was something that was kind of taking some work. You know, they needed to gel a little bit more. Maybe it'll take maybe like a quarter of the season. You know, maybe not that long. You hope maybe not that long, but, you know, take a little bit of the season to kind of just feel their way out, kind of, you know, enjoy playing with, you know, you got like Angel and Sylvia are like the best of friends. And so there's something to be said about team chemistry when you have players who've been there before, who know what it takes to win in the league. Like you just hope to see that they can pull it together, but they just probably need a little time to gel a little bit before, you know, we really start to see them roll how we expect to see them roll, because you come into this season and you don't want to put too much pressure on it. And I think Sylvia's been kind of deflecting and, you know, kind of getting so much of the attention. And it doesn't help when you got things like, you know, becoming the 13th player in WNBA history to score 6,000 points.
Yeah.
And you're just like, dang, man, like this season is just going to continue to be about what Sylvia is doing and what she can do. And, you know, the expectation from, you know, Coach Reeve is that Sylvia can be another MVP candidate. She can be another Defensive Player of the Year candidate in her last year. And there's a lot of pressure there, and I don't think that really gets to Sylvia much. She's just a very, like, chill, like, even keel player, and she's just, you know, she's got that grit and that fight to just do what she has to do out there on the court. You just trust that she's going to do her part. And now you just kind of have to see the complementary players just kind of get in line and do what they can do well, so that all of this could work well to get them to, you know, where they're cutting down, you know, Nets holding up trophies at the end of the year.
I'm just reading off this ESPN Power Rankings, so don't hit me with a copyright or anything. But it says, check this out, though. It says Lynx offensive production is the biggest concern as the season begins because they're missing a guard and 2 forwards. And as you saw in the first 2 losses, they're only hitting about 34%. Puts a lot of pressure on the Minnesota defense, and the Lynx could take their lumps early on here as they get some of those guys back. And just like you said, get into a rhythm at Indiana tonight, as you mentioned, and then a little bit of a break, a little bit of a breather, and then Chicago at home here on Saturday night. All right, last one. What does it mean? Wrapping up, Reggie's back, hitting them with a good one right here. The NFL announced 5 international games for the 2022 season. 4 in Europe, 1 in Mexico. Outside of the Vikings and Saints, though, let's just put that to the side for now. What does it mean for the most highly touted matchup that international football fans got to be the most excited about? You got the Bucks and Seahawks in Germany, Jaguars, Broncos at Wembley, Packers, Giants, and then Cardinals and 49ers on Monday Night Football in Mexico City. I mean, which one jumps out there to you?
It's the last one for sure. You know, like seeing Kyler Murray, seeing potentially Trey Lance. You know, the Niners have stacked themselves to compete every year, and the Cardinals are going for it, you know, trading for Hollywood and things like that. Like, I am excited to see that. And usually when you see these NFC West games, like, they're just like shootouts, like they're games that are must-see television. And so, like, you know, I think the last time they were in Mexico, the NFL was in Mexico, We had, what was it, the Chiefs and the Rams. That game was probably one of the best games in NFL history, regular season wise. Like, that game was awesome. It was just like a shootout. And so, like, they know how to thrill fans over there in Mexico. And so I think that game is probably going to be the most, because you look at some of these other ones, man, like the Bucks and the Seahawks are going to be burnt pie this year. Like,
yeah, but
nobody's
Brady,
expecting
man. I mean, you got to think about it. Germany, you get to see the legend, the GOAT.
He's about to chop them up.
Well, the game itself, yeah. I mean, I don't think you're right. The matchup, you're right.
Yeah.
The way I worded that
Jaguars,
question. What's
Broncos.
the best matchup? Yeah, but to see Tom Brady, I think for international fans, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity because he's toast after this year. So to go see Tom Brady, I think of all those, that probably is what people are getting the most excited about. But as far as a matchup, you're right. Cardinals and 49ers for sure. Kyler, they get Hollywood Brown, as you mentioned. Will Deebo Samuel be in a 49er uniform by the time that game rolls around? We'll see. That's going to be very interesting. But just such a cool concept, though, isn't it? I mean, I know some fans get a little annoyed when they see their team having to travel across the pond and then they get their bye week early, and it's just a tedious, long process to do the whole London game. But just a cool process, I think, for the NFL to broaden the scope of just the fans around the globe. I like to see it. It's pretty cool. This will be the Vikings' third game over there. They're 2-0. They beat the Steelers, 8-9 years ago, and then the Browns a couple of years ago as well. So going to be pretty fun. They play them week 4. Reminder, too, the NFL schedule gets released on Thursday, but Monday Night Football, Vikes at Philly, second game of a doubleheader. You got Titans and Bills, game 1. So we know 2 of the games so far, 2 primetime games. We'll see how the rest shakes out here on Thursday when the NFL releases the schedule. All right, Reggie, you did it. You survived the gauntlet. Back here tomorrow, breaking down the Wild and Blues Game 5 matchup and Twins-Astros Game 1 here at Target Field. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and join us every day for another episode covering all the biggest topics in Minnesota sports. He's Reggie Wilson. Follow him on Twitter at Reggie Wilson TV and on KARE11. I'm Luke Inman on Twitter at Luke_Spinman. Tune in tomorrow to Superior Sports Talk, part of Locked On Sports Minnesota. For Reggie, I'm Luke. Until tomorrow, signing out.
Be blessed. Spread love this week.
This is Superior Sports Talk with Reggie Wilson and Luke Inman, part of Locked On Sports Minnesota.